Okay, here we go. So we're in Parsha Shemini, which is Vayikra chapter 9, Leviticus chapter 9. And it starts off with Vahi Bayom Hashmeni, Kara Moshe Haron. It was on the 8th day Moshe summoned Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. And verse 2, it says, he said to Aaron, it says, Vayomer el Aharon, Kach lecha, and it says, take for yourself a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for an elevation offering. Okay, so what is happening here in this parsha? It's the inauguration of the Mishkan. Okay, this is the official grand opening of the Mishkan. Now, we actually read about this earlier in Torah, though, in Exodus chapter 29. In Exodus chapter 29, verse 14, we read about the inauguration of the temple and an offering. It says, so in Shemini, I read that it says, take for yourself a young bull for a sin offering, a ram for an elevation offering, unblemished, and offer them before Hashem. So this is part of the inauguration offering. And in Exodus 29, we see the same explanation here. In 29 verse 14, it says the flesh of a bull, okay? And it says its hide, its waist, you shall burn in fire outside the camp. It is a sin offering. Okay, so God preps Moshe to tell Aaron and his sons what's going to be required for the actual inauguration back in Exodus, in Parsha Tetzaveh. And we see it put in practice in Parsha Zav. Okay, so in Exodus 29:14, yeah, we see that they're supposed to take a bull. The flesh of the bull shall be put up in a fire. It's a sin offering. An Ola offering is the only offering that is completely burned up, right? Since when does the katas, the sin offering, go up in flames? This is what we're reading right here. None. Why here in Tetzaveh, it says the sin offering is getting burned up in fire? It's supposed to be consumed by the Kohen. The Kohen Gadol actually eats a part of the sin offering. Okay? Why in Exodus does it say the bull is being completely burnt up in fire? Now, a lot of people may read this and even read Shemini, Parsha Shemini this week, and may have not even crossed our mind about this. If you sinned, the Kohen is to eat the katas. Why is this offering, this sin offering, going up in flames on the Ola offering? So if you want to know exactly how the sin offering is done, we go to Leviticus chapter 6. Leviticus, Vayikra chapter 6, verse 17 to 19. It says here, Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, this is the law of the chatas offering, the sin offering. In the place where the elevation offering is slaughtered, the Ola offering, shall the sin offering be slaughtered before Hashem. It is most holy. The Kohen who performs the sin offering service shall eat it. It shall be eaten in a holy place in the courtyard of the tent of the meeting. So this is the actual way, the legal way of doing the sin offering. In verse 19, it says the Kohen shall eat it in the place where the Ola offering is. No one eats the Ola. The Kohen only, Aaron, he eats the sin offering. But in Tetzaveh, as we read, no one's eating from it. So is the Torah contradicting itself? That is the question. what is the Torah saying? So if we actually look at Rashi, where's my Rashi? In Rashi, in Exodus chapter 29, verse 14, this is what Rashi says. In 29, verse 14, it says, the flesh of the bull and its hide and its waist you shall burn in the fire outside the camp. And the word for bull, the et basar hapar, par means bull. So it says, you shall burn in the fire. We have not found any outer sin offering. This is what Rashi says. We have not found any outer sin offering, a sin offering whose blood is placed on the outer Mizbeach, which is entirely burnt up, other than this one. That's what Rashi says. We don't find this anywhere else. And Exodus 29, verse 14 is the description. This is Hashem telling Moshe how the inauguration for the Mishkan will happen. Exodus 29 is not actually happening. It's just the instructions given as we come to this Parsha Shemini. Now they're acting out what Hashem is telling Moshe in Exodus 29. And so Rashi does refer to Shemini, but says Shemini is just acting this out. Rashi says no other mention of a chatas offering going up in flames except for here. No explanation. Rashi doesn't give any explanation. We go to Leviticus chapter 9, verse 8 and 11. It says, so I read this, but I just want to make sure everybody's really understanding this, what's going on here. In verse 8 of chapter 9, Aaron came near to the altar and slaughtered the sin offering calf that was his. The sons of Aaron brought the blood to him. He dipped his finger into the blood and placed it on the horns of the Mizbeach. He poured the remaining blood on the foundation of the altar. Verse 10, and the fats and the kidneys and the diaphragm with the liver of the sin offering he caused to go up and smoke on the altar as Hashem commanded Moshe. And verse 11, and the flesh and the hide he burned in the fire outside the camp. Okay, so it's completely burnt up. Exodus 29:14 says Hashem commanded this. So here is the big question. Why does the Torah call the sin offering? So if we go look at chapter 9, verse 2, it says, he said to Aaron, take for yourself, so in English, it says, take for yourself a young bull. In Exodus 29, verse 14, it says, lachak par echad, take one bull par. But in Leviticus 9, when it says, take for yourself a young bull in English, it doesn't say in Hebrew. It doesn't say bull. It says, Vayomer el aharon chak lecha egel. It actually says in Hebrew, take for yourself a calf. A calf. Exodus 29 says, take for yourself a bull, which is actually giving the instructions of the act that's performing now in our Parsha. Exodus 29 is a bull. Here, it says calf. Is this a mistake? Did the Torah forget what offering to give? Is it a bull or is it a calf? What kind of nonsense is going on here? Is this a contradiction again? Right? So when in Parsha Tetzaveh, it's not called an egel. Called a bull. One young bull, egel, and here it's egel. So Rashi says, outside of the instance here, we don't find it anywhere else, a chatas offering being burnt up. But there is other places in the Tanakh where sin offerings did actually get burnt up, like in Olah. So in Numbers chapter 8, verses 11 and 12. We're just going to investigate all of this here. It says, Aaron shall wave the Levites as a wave service before Hashem from the children of Israel. They shall remain to perform the service of Hashem. the Levites shall lean their hands upon the head of the bulls. You shall make one a sin offering and one an elevation offering to Hashem to provide atonement for the Levites. Now, it doesn't really say exactly what is done, but some of the commentaries say this bull was also completely burnt up. There's another spot in the book of Ezra, in Ezra chapter 8, verse 35, it says, the returnees from captivity, people of exile, brought olas to the God of Israel, 12 oxen, 12 bulls for all of Israel, 96 rams, 77 sheep, 12 he-goats, and sin offerings, all as an olah to Hashem. So it says that these sin offerings are even an olah here. And the commentaries actually say this is unusual as well, but it's a one-time ruling. What is Ezra all about? He's about reestablishing or establishing the Beis HaMikdash, another inauguration. So the rabbis really are saying this has to do with a certain special time of dedication. And Ezra and Nehemiah were really one book, but the Gentiles basically split them up into two books, but they're really one book. And the consecration of the Levites, the Kohanim, their functions to serve the Kohanim regarding the Mishkan. So in Numbers 8, it also has to do with the Mishkan. And so the bowls assumed here went up also in flames. So it's because of the dedication. As the Jews are coming out of exile, they're getting ready to do teshuvah and confess their sins and to begin the construction of the temple and prepare the altar. And there's another spot in Ezekiel 43, chapter 43, verse 21 and 22. It says, then take his bullock, which is a cleansing offering, and burn it in a designated place of the house outside the temple. Then on the second day, you're to bring near a perfect he-goat for a cleansing offering, and let it cleanse the altar as they cleansed it with the bullock. And so Ezekiel, some of the commentators say this has really got to do with a spiritual element. And so some think that the sin offering has to do with just the inaugurations. What is Ezekiel also dealing with? The third, well, some say the third temple. I say more of the heavenly temple, which is like a third temple. But anyway, the Rambam says otherwise. For one, Ezra was a scribe and a Kohen. The Torah says the Kohen is to eat the sin offering. So why does Ezra not eat it? And Ezekiel is also a Kohen. And in Numbers 8, we see a bit of this. So what is Aaron doing? There's no mention of him eating it. The only difference with all these verses to the one in Shemini is all those verses that I read in Ezra and in Ezekiel and Numbers have to do with a bull. But there's a big difference with Shemini. It says egel. So why an egel? Why a calf when every other part is talking about a bull? What is unique about this? The beginning, the Kohen, the priests, hang out for 7 days at the Ohel Moed, the tent meeting, for the grand opening, the beginning of the service. It's a big deal. It's a preparation, the offering of the sin offerings. Vayikra chapter 9, verse 1 and 2, it says, take yourself a bull. We come down to verse 7, and it says, Moses said to Aaron, come near the altar, perform the service of your sin offering and your elevation offering, okay? And so Tetzaveh is absent. We don't see a bull, the egel in Tetzaveh. According to the Torah, the altar was in effect. It was ineffective unless the sin offering was placed on it first. Unless blood is on the Mizbeach and the sacrifice, if it wasn't, then the sacrifice was no good. There's no forgiveness, no confession. And so this is strange because we also usually read that the Ola offering goes up first. But Vayikra, Parsha Zav, the chronology is a little different. When you offer a sin offering, has to be the same place where the Ola offering is given. And the Ola is known to rectify our thoughts, negative thoughts. Then you put the sin offering on to change, to purify, and to correct. But here in Shemini, unless the sin offering goes first and then follow with the Ola offering. And verse 7, Moshe, why does Moshe come to Aaron? Also, why would we inaugurate the Mishkan with a sin offering? For such a holy place, why a sin offering? The Mishkan is a holy place, and unless the sin offering is placed first, who is the main subject of this offering, his sons are just tagging along, Aaron's sons are just tagging along, and Aaron's not even eating the offering. Also, the blood has to hit the altar. Where else did the blood have to be involved? Well, blood is also involved in the covenant, which I talked before I began to start the study. And we see that blood has to be inaugurated with a covenant back in Exodus chapter 24. Exodus 24, verse 6 and 8. This is a covenant cannot be established without blood. And here it is in Exodus 24, verse 8. It says, Moshe took half the blood and placed it in the basins, and half the blood he threw upon the Mizbeach, the altar. He took the book of the covenant and read it in the earshot of the people, and they said, everything that Hashem has spoken, Naaseh v'nishma, we will do and we will obey. And Moshe took it and threw it on the people, and behold, the blood of the covenant that Hashem sealed with you concerning all these matters, it says. So there's blood in the vessels, the sakronot, the aganot, and it's thrown on the altar, and the blood on the people. And this is used to inaugurate the people into the covenant. It's not a sin offering though, but it's also used as an inauguration. No curses, no sin offering, but Shemini, blood is used to inaugurate. So the inauguration of the Mishkan had to be blood, and blood of a sin offering. So if a Kohen is required to eat the sin offering, why is Aaron not allowed to here? So if we go back to Leviticus 6:18, 6:18 here, says, speak to Aaron and his sons. This is the law of the sin offering in the place where the elevation offering is slaughtered, so that the sin offering be slaughtered before Hashem, it is most holy. And then in verse 19, it says the Kohanim shall eat it. And so what was the Kohen doing by eating the offering? Because the Kohen is on a higher level, he can absorb the sin and eliminate it. He's the sin eater. So actually the sin was really forgiven when the Kohanim would eat a part of the Chatas offering. And this is when the sin was officially forgiven for Israel. Okay? And in Parsha Tetzaveh is really in the past talking about the inauguration that is to be done here in Parsha Shemini. So what's going on? Why in Parsha Tetzaveh does it describe the offering as a bull, a par, but in Shemini it says egel? And this is what the Ramban Nachmanides actually says. He says, I really know why this is. And Ramban Nachmanides says, Hashem saw the future. Hashem already saw into the future and commanded them to bring a sin offering. Why? If they haven't even sinned, and Hashem is telling Moshe and Aaron, this is what you're going to do when the Mishkan is inaugurated, when you're ready to open it up and do all the services, you got to bring the sin offering. Why? Because Hashem already saw the sin of the golden calf before it was even done. Hashem saw the sin before Israel even did the sin. And Hashem requires the sin offering before it happened. The sages say that Hashem always provides the remedy to the sickness before the sickness even happens. He already provides the antidote to the sickness. It's already prepared before you even get sick. Hashem has the medicine. And so Hashem knew they were going to sin with the golden calf. If there was no golden calf, there would have been no need for animal sacrifices. God had to provide a substitute for Aaron. And this is what the Chazam Cipher says. Actually, this ain't the Chazam Cipher. Chazam Cipher is right here. The Chazam Cipher actually says Aaron was also to some extent implicated, since at the behest of the mob, he helped gather the materials and build the egel. Thus, it was appropriate to first seek kapara for himself, atonement, and the people, or covering, that the people for that aspect of the egel in which they had collaborated. However, Aaron was certainly in no way involved in the most serious aspect of the Cheta Egel, the sin of the golden calf, the grave ideology, heresy of accepting a calf as a god, or at least a supernatural replacement for Moshe, as well as the slaying of Hur when he refused to yield the mob's demands for these grave offenses in which he did not take part. Aaron offered an olah to atone for the people. Chazam Cipher says he offered an olah to atone for the people. Ramban comments on Rashi in his earlier statement, and he says, this is the only place. Ramban says God matrixed. He went into the matrix. As he provided a substitution for Aaron and the golden calf because God is not bound by time. So Hashem provided something in time from something out of time. So in Tetzaveh, when God says for your inauguration of the Mishkan, you need a sin offering when there was no sin, because Hashem knew the future with Aaron. Hashem provided the remedy before the sin. And this is nothing new that the Brit Hadashah even talks about. In 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 18 and 20, it says this: you should be aware that the ransom paid to free you from the worthless way of life which your fathers passed on to you did not consist of anything perishable like silver or gold. On the contrary, it was the costly, bloody, sacrificial death of the Mashiach, as of a lamb without defect or spot. God knew him before the foundation of the universe, but revealed him in Acharit HaYamin, in the later days for your sake. Hashem prepared the lamb before the foundation of the world. In Revelation chapter 13, verse 8, it says, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of the Lamb that was slain from the foundation of the world. What else do the rabbis say? They say there was 7 things prepared before creation, and one of them was Mashiach. See, even Hashem knew Adam was going to sin. He knew mankind would sin, and he provided the remedy before the fall. And so this is nothing new. This in the Torah here is Hashem giving the remedy. This alluding to Mashiach. What is Shemini? It means the 8th day. It represents Olam Haba. It represents the coming of Mashiach, who is the cure. And what happens? What does it say in 2 Corinthians? 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21. It says, God made the sinless man be a sin offering on our behalf, so that in union with him, we might fully share in God's righteousness. Yeah, Mashiach became sin who knew no sin. And Hashem prepared him before the foundation of the world. And so here is the concept. Short study, but amazing.